Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the pod today because for the first time ever, I do not have my partner in crime. Nads is in Germany, and so we send her lots of love and hugs and hope she will be back very shortly. But before everyone turns off, it is not just me today. Do not worry. I have been on the hunt for a guest co-host and I have found one. Welcome, Laura, to
Hello.
I Beg Your Pardon.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And I think we should probably acknowledge potentially a second co-host.
Yes, we're joined by little Maggie today, who is
Little Maggie.
2 months old.
2 months old. And this is a reminder for people. So if you are listening and you want to be watching this, you can on Spotify. And if, as a little treat for doing that, you will see little 2-month Maggie, who is just perched on Laura's chest. So we are going to see how this goes because this is the first time for the pod having not only a guest co-host, but also a 2-month-old. So no disrespect to Maggie, but I think we hope to hear as little of her as possible.
I think that's fair.
But if you hear coos in the background, that is sweet, sweet Maggie just having a lovely, lovely sleep.
Yeah, let's hope that stays that way for now.
I've got to say, I'm very impressed that you were able to get here from South London, go up those stairs, sit down, 2-month-old, she's asleep, she's fed, she's changed.
Yeah, I mean, the bit that you didn't see was me arriving, like, sweating with, like, bits of stuff hanging off me. Also on the tube, like, poking her awake. So I was like, you need to be awake now because you need to sleep later.
Yes.
So I broke the golden rule of never wake a sleeping baby, but it does, touch wood, seem to be helping for now.
You've done very well so far. What do the listeners need to know about Laura before we dive into the pod?
Okay, so very cornerly, in preparation for a bit of introductions, I have done 2 truths and a lie.
Love it.
So
see, guys, this is why we invited Laura, because she prepares games.
So first of all, I have 2 daughters, born within a year of each other, so 11-month age gap. Quite spicy, some might say.
Wow.
Second one is I watched a birth live in the room before I actually gave birth myself. And the third is I chose a sperm donor who listed fingerboarding as one of his hobbies.
Sorry, they're so good. I get to guess, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I obviously have the advantage of knowing you. I am going to say that the lie is the 11-month apart.
Yes. I just thought that might sound a bit more believable. I do have 2 daughters, but no, they're 2 years apart, 2 years and a bit.
Well, I mean, the funnest ones were the truth ones, which makes the rest of the pod really fun. So remind us of the truths.
So the truths are I watched a birth live before I gave birth myself. So I was a birth partner to my wife for our first daughter. And second is that when picking a sperm donor, we chose a donor who listed fingerboarding as one of his hobbies, which I did have to Google.
Well, I mean, I've got lots of questions about that. And we are definitely going to dive straight into that. It is worth saying you are a fan of the pod.
I am also a fan of the pod, yeah. I am a big fan of it, but also it found me, you guys started it when I was just about to start mat leave. So maybe like 6 weeks off from giving birth. And I was like, this sounds perfect for what I need.
Yeah.
And I just love it. You guys are very honest. And I've sent it to a lot of my NCT pals to be like, guys, actually, do you know what? I didn't send it to them before birth because I was worried it might scare them.
Yes.
And then I was like, after they'd all given birth, I was like, you're all going to love this.
Well, do you know what? I'm really glad that we have a fan of the pod on. And Laura, for those people that have listened to our pod from the beginning, you will have also kind of know Laura because you have been a writer-inner.
I have been a writer-inner.
And we will get into that. So guys, if you want to be a guest co-host, if that opportunity ever arises, your odds skyrocket if you write in. So just a little tip.
Lovely.
So you have a 2-and-a-bit-year-old and sweet, sweet Maggie at 2 months old.
Yeah.
Is it as, I mean, I'm obviously about to give birth to my second.
Sure.
Just give me a quick spoiler of 2 under 2.
Is it harder than the jump from 0 to 1?
Well, I mean, let's start there.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the answer that I want?
I don't know. I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit, right? Because
Okay.
the actual baby, like Maggie, is so much easier than the first time around.
Right.
Because for a lot of reasons, you're like, well, I'm not going to worry about that because I know it's fine. I'm not going to, the fretting and the panicking and the, oh my God, will this bit ever end? Because it's really difficult. You kind of, it will end, and you don't really need to worry because you've kept one of them alive for 2 years already.
Yeah.
So from the kind of like actually looking after this little human, way easier than 0 to 1 because you've done it before.
Right.
However,
here we go.
The whole picture of parenting a toddler and a baby is definitely harder than just parenting a baby. It makes you realise, like when Annie, my daughter, goes to nursery, I just have her, I'm like, oh God, what a relief. This is easy now. Because kind of is. At the beginning, they sleep a lot, touch wood. They sleep a lot. And, feeding, don't get me wrong, that's hard at the beginning. I had my moments with that. And like, obviously I've had my moments with a lot of it. It's been like, God, this is difficult. But compared to when Annie's there, making it more difficult, I'm like, yeah, this is easy.
Yeah. I spoke to a friend, I was messaging a friend, hadn't caught up with her in a while, and she has 2 babies, one newborn and toddler as well. And she just said, my life is separated into 2. One, when my oldest daughter is at nursery. And she said basically exactly what you said. She was like, then it's kind of bliss because you first time round, you don't appreciate the slow moments because it
100%.
Feels so crazy and hard.
Yeah.
And then the older one comes back from nursery and I'm just like, what is this hellhole?
Yeah, like nothing gets done, nothing happens. It's complete insanity.
As in Joey is going to nursery 3 days a week and I'm starting to realise that means that the majority of the time
you'll have both.
We will have both.
We, as in you and Ben together?
Yes.
Okay, so that makes it much more manageable.
I mean, not both of us all of the time, but split between us.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, if I were you,
yes,
feel free to ignore this advice. Maybe look into the possibility of more days so you have them on the back burner. Yeah. So that if it happens and you're finding it really difficult, or if Joey finds it really difficult, because a lot of things is also like, that's the routine. So Joey's life's going to be completely changed. Like Annie's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like she loves her little sister, but she's also kind of a bit baffled why don't I'm the only one who gets hugs anymore from mummy. Like, why can't you get up and play with me right now?
Do they understand it too?
Kind of can't. I mean, like she understands that I can't go play with her because I'm feeding.
But does she understand that you had a baby and it's her sister?
Yeah. As in she says those words, so I'm going to take it that means she understands.
Yeah.
So I think so. Yeah, I think she understands that.
Have you had them on your own?
I did my first ever nursery pickup and bed and bath last night.
How was?
My own. It was fine. Do you know what? I'm cheating because Molly actually got home before bedtime, so I actually only got as far as bath time. So it was actually fine. And it was fine. It was fine. And I do every morning. I do on my own. I do nursery drop off. Which again is fine because I think maybe when Maggie's bigger it'll be worse, but I just like stick her in the bouncy chair and then like the problem comes when a 2-year-old's like, I don't want to put my coat on, and you've got a baby strapped to you, and like wrestling them into a coat is actually quite difficult to do.
Yeah.
But on the whole, it's fine. It's like 45 minutes of my morning. Get her up at 7, leave the house 7:45. By 8:15, I'm home again with just the chill baby.
Well, people say that the second baby is easier. And I do wonder, like, how much of that is they just have to be. I
do wonder that too. Like, there's a lot of like, I'll be with you in a minute, Maggie.
Yeah.
Which is also something they say to do to like make the toddler feel looked after.
Yeah.
I'll be with you in a minute, Maggie. I'm just helping your sister, so that they hear you like choose them and stuff like that. But like, I also do think you just I've just had to leave her crying sometimes because it's not an option.
Yeah.
I did have a moment the other day where again I was on my own. And we've also recently potty trained the 2-year-old. So Maggie had like a massive punami, and I was changing her, like full outfit change, nappy change. And at which point Annie goes, Mummy, I need a wee. And I was like, oh God. I was like, okay, babe, you're going to have to get yourself there. Do you think you can get yourself to the potty? And like, please don't piss on the floor. Please don't piss on the floor. And anyway, she gets herself there, but then wants a book while she's on the potty. So it's like screaming at me. And I was like, I can't get it to you. And I was in a fret because the jabs had just happened. So they were like, whatever you do, wash your hands after nappies because you could give them rotavirus. Yeah. So I'm there like a baby literally covered in poo and a toddler like needing me to get her something. And I was like, what? I don't know what to do in this situation.
Yeah.
Molly was like upstairs drying her hair or something. And I was literally just like, Molly!
I think also we have probably created demanding for, I mean, I definitely have.
100%. Yeah. They're used to just whatever they ask for, they get it straight away.
So much attention.
Yeah.
And Joey's the first grandchild, basically, for so many of the grandparents.
Okay, so she's not even sharing attention with cousins then?
No. Literally, like, sometimes we sit at the table and there's like 5 people just staring at her. And I do think, sorry, do you think you're a celebrity or something? And then when she goes out, and she acts like one too, because she's like waving to people and they wave back.
That's
and so
cute.
I do feel like she must think that she's a celeb, and we are building a...
There's a little,
She wants to say
grunt
something.
from Maggie.
Yeah, we're building a monster.
I mean, she's not 2 yet though, is she? Will she be 2 by the time
No, she's 1.5.
baby arrives?
Yeah.
Okay.
She won't be 2. She'll be 21 months.
Okay, so you won't probably be in the full like toddler terror stage, I guess.
No,
Like,
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know when anything starts. Like you mentioned potty training. 2, is that young to start potty training?
I think it depends. There's a lot of like signs.
What made you start?
So she went up into the next class at nursery, which is like toddlers. And so there's a lot of kids there who are out of nappies. And she was like taking her nappy off at nursery and weeing on the potty. So we were like, that seems like a good sign that she's ready.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were like, let's just give it a go.
Okay, Laura, I want to dive into some Laura stuff. And maybe we'll get a feature from Maggie because she's
doing a bit of
some
cooing.
very, very cute cooing. As you teased at the beginning of the pod, you have a really interesting way of, well, it's been I would say, unusual way to start a family.
I think that's fair.
I actually looked up some stats about how unusual. Do you want to guess?
Yeah, go on then. As in like how unusual?
So what percentage of people do you think are in a female-female relationship with kids?
What percentage of people?
What percentage
in the
of
world?
People? It's not that specific.
Fine, okay.
I think it took like generals from US and UK.
Fair, okay.
I mean, whatever you think.
3%?
Way less.
Really?
1% of couples are same-sex couples.
Okay.
That sounds like bullshit.
I literally have no idea.
I would have guessed like 10%.
Do you think?
But anyway, I did then go, I asked anyway, ChatGPT thinks 1% of couples. Let's say half of those are female couples.
Yeah.
So we're going 0.5% are female couples. And then it told me 25% of female couples have kids.
Okay.
Which, by the way, if you were interested, is a lot higher than same-sex male couples.
Interesting. Yeah, actually, that doesn't surprise me.
So a quarter of 0.5%. So we're talking like 0.01%.
That is not very much.
Does that make you feel really powerful?
Very special.
I feel like it would make me feel super powerful. Anyway, guys, this is just the kind of guest co-host that I line up for you, like less than 0.01 perspective. Right. My biggest burning question is the comparison of being a parent and everything that goes with it in terms of pregnancy, birth. Maybe we hold birth because that's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah.
From being the child-bearing mother to being the
not
supporting mother.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because I think there is a lot that's prepared. Like the part of the reason maybe I'm finding this a lot easier, quote unquote, is that I did it the last time, but I didn't have to do the hardest part last time because I wasn't on I did 6 weeks off, but I wasn't on mat leave. So I didn't have like the full shebang of everything. And, you know, Molly, my wife, was amazing and did a lot of the kind of like getting her in a routine during the day and all the kind of like, we're doing this for naps. And like, I was kind of the one who would come home after being at work and be like, okay, well, Molly would like tell me what's changed that day. I didn't have to like lead that, I guess. The lead parent, someone told it to me the other day. But I was obviously like super involved and I wasn't someone who was like completely hands off.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about how I write in a lot. One of the ones I wrote in was like useless partners. And you guys joked about like hilarious that you've caveated that like it wouldn't be men when obviously it would be men.
Well, I've
being useless.
I have to say, like, can I tell you how I imagine female parenting relationships?
Go on.
This is a conversation that lives in my imagination. Darling, Maggie's about to outgrow her newborn clothes. Oh, don't worry, darling. I noticed that, and I bought the clothes, and they're in the cupboard. While we're talking about it, we're going to Roger's birthday party next week, and we need to get him a gift. Oh, now I know. I've thought of that, and I bought it, and I got him a lovely train set. It's in the cupboard, but like literally, I just imagine the mental load just being shared all of the time, and you never having to think of everything. Is that what it's like?
I mean, it's not as perfect as that, but things like that do happen a little bit. Like my sister actually did a quiz the other day on the mental load because she was like being passive aggressive to her husband, and she quizzed us on like the things like who does this, who does that, and one was like who knows when you've run out of clothes, who does the like it's a special day at school or nursery admin, like it's wear a silly jumper day or whatever. And we came out of it quite well. Like there are definitely things that Molly does more of, but then there are also things that I will do that she doesn't do. And we've like flipped that a bit more the other way now that I'm on mat leave. So like she was definitely one for more laundry because she's like the neatest neat freak in the world. But like now I'm doing more laundry because I'm at home all the time. So like, and it does, whereas my sister was like, my husband worked from home all day and there were clothes in the washing machine, and did he take them out? No, he fucking didn't. So like, you know, I think we're very lucky in that regard that like the mental load definitely is shared, definitely.
I do.
Yeah, not to be too like smug about it, but it is nice.
But anyway, I interrupted you. So you were saying it's different for you because you're on maternity leave this time.
Yeah, but what I think is actually more difficult is Molly's way around, because last time she was super involved. She was up with every feed. She was up with everything. Molly's my wife. I don't know if I said that, but so she is like kind of pranging out, has been this time, that she's like, oh, I feel really bad that I've not got up and helped you in the night. And I have to be like, but babe, you've got to go to work tomorrow, and you've got to like, you know, take Annie to football club. So you've got to like have energy, which I don't need to have if I'm just sitting around with her all day.
So I call bullshit on that. And I know I might be one of the minority, but I just feel like, and maybe I'll feel differently, but I feel like being on maternity leave is harder than going to work. I just do.
She's a primary school teacher and she teaches PE.
Okay, fine.
She's on her feet all day with like 24-year-olds.
Fine, Molly, get a pass.
So I'm like, you do actually need to be rested to be able to do that job.
Some jobs, but for people that like us, that just like sit
at a desk all day, it's not hard. Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's true. But like, you know, and I do also think, especially if it's the weekend, she's like, right, it's the weekend now, so I can help you. Yeah. And I'm like, there is literally no point, especially as I'm breastfeeding, like there's literally no point in both of us staying awake for an hour and a half in the middle of the night. There's just no point.
No.
And like, it makes you feel less guilty if you're awake. And I'm not saying that's why she's doing it, but she's like, I feel too guilty to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm like, please, because if we're both really knackered tomorrow, parenting that 2-year-old is going to be way, way harder.
100%.
So like, I need you to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But like, it comes from a place of like, last time I was the one who got up and did it, and Laura was the one sleeping through stuff and being like, oh shit. Whereas Molly the other day it was like quite early on, but she hadn't heard her like stirring that had woken me up because she's on my side of the bed. And then halfway through my feed, I was sitting in like a chair in the corner of our room. She like jumped out of bed. So she woke up and did that thing. You know when you like think you're late or you slept through your alarm and you like jump out of bed so fast. She did that, jumped out of bed so fast. She got a head rush, nearly fell over and smacked into the wall. And I was like, hey, darling, calm down. Get back in bed. Everything's fine. But I was like, you're injuring yourself by like feeling guilty about not helping.
Yeah.
Whereas like before I was like, okay, well, everything okay. I'll change your nappy. I'll give for her. You feed her and then I'll go back to sleep. Kind of that was like my help in the night. Whereas she was up for the hours and now she's finding it difficult not to be.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the more weird comparison to go from like having done it all to then like doing less.
Yeah.
Whereas I did the like, okay, I'm doing half-ish, less than half probably, and now I'm doing all of it. So it was like a little ramp up.
Yeah. And from a confidence perspective, like I remember Nads once saying on the pod, and I feel like it's so true, parenting is such a confidence game. And I even feel it, you know, when I've been at work for a couple of days and I've missed, you know, something that Joey's done that's brand new and I don't feel up to date. And then I'm like, okay, well, do I need to put her down indifferently or whatever? Do you feel like a huge difference in that respect in terms of, I'm sure to your point, I'm sure, you know, you were such a hands-on parent first time round, but being there all day, 2 days a week is obviously very different to 7 days a week. So does, from a confidence perspective, it just feel completely different?
I was thinking about this last night and I was like, the things that we used to panic about, like, honestly, is she hot? Is she cold? Is she this? Is she that? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like,
do you not worry about that anymore?
Not really. Oh, yeah. I'm like, she'll be fine. And interestingly, Molly, her one biggest prank is about temperature, and she still freaks out about Annie's room not being the right temperature.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you worried about Maggie? She's like, not really, she'll be fine. I was like, is that okay? But like, I just don't fret about that stuff. And I'm like, it definitely is, or like, you know, is she eating enough? And I'm lucky, like she did gain weight quite quickly, whereas we had a real weight issue with Annie. So like, and there was a lot of like, oh my God, she's not gaining weight. Is she had enough? Blah, blah, blah. So that whole thing we managed to dodge because she kind of did quite well from the start. But I just remember like panicking about way more things than I did with this time around.
Yeah.
And I think that is purely down to what we've done it for, and it turned out okay.
And I guess I felt the same with the pregnancy in terms of
exactly. I'm sure it's similar.
Second time round, it does. I just things that I cared about the first time, I just don't.
Well, you would have probably like called the midwives and been like, oh my God, this has happened. This feels weird.
Yeah.
And this time around, you're like, oh well, pregnancy sometimes feels weird.
I just think also you have more faith. Like I have more faith in my body, and clearly you have more faith in yourselves.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The big one, BIRTH.
Yep.
I have so many questions. Obviously, so I know we've mentioned this, but just to be crystal clear, Laura's first baby was birthed by her wife, and then Laura chose to birth their second child.
Okay, but you're making it sound like I watched it happen and then was like, oh, me next, please.
But that is what happened.
Well, we kind of decided from the get-go, like, we'll both do it once.
Yeah, but you could have changed
it's
your
not
mind.
Like that's true. I don't think I could. I think if we wanted
really?
two kids,
As in
Molly
was
like,
just like, nah.
She said, I don't know. We never got to that far to the conversation, but she definitely said at the time that I was getting pregnant, she was like, if it was me, there's no way we'd be doing it now. Like I'd have a longer gap.
Yes.
Like body recovery and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it wasn't like, it sounds like I watched it happen and went, that looks sick, sign me up, yes please.
Well, no,
it was more like at the beginning I was like, I want to do it, you want to do it, who's going to go first? So it was always on the cards. If anything, it was more like, oh, I don't know, I want to do that.
Really?
Yeah. God, yeah.
Well, because I remember talking to you at work and you weren't pregnant or anything, but you know, we were talking about plans and you were saying that, you know, you guys wanted to have a second and you were going to carry the baby this time. And I was like, really? So, and obviously you'd seen your wife give birth. So can you just talk me through how it feels because Nads and I have talked about this before, and Nads has said, which I think is probably true, that in the way that women give birth and then kind of physiologically forget about the trauma and the pain to some degree, men or the non-birthing person doesn't have that physiological advantage. Can you just talk us through those two experiences and how they compare?
That's so true. I mean, you don't get any of the like blurriness and the forgetfulness and like all kind of blend into one and blah, blah, blah. And I know that because whenever people talk about like birth stories, Molly will be like, oh, and then it was maybe the Saturday, babe, what was it? Then this happened and like a few hours later. I was like, no, it was like 18 hours later and this had happened and this had happened and this had happened. And it's all like vividly burned into my memory. Like, I probably remember her birth more than I remember my own birth.
Yeah.
And it was without question the scariest, I'd say, day of my life, but more like 3 days of my life.
Which one, sorry?
Annie.
Okay.
Yeah.
As in when
my first daughter was born.
When Laura's wife gave birth.
Watching Molly be in labour and give birth and be in pain and be able to do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And then things kind of went a bit sideways. We ended up in theatre. She had a forceps delivery. Like, watching all of that happen was like, without doubt, the scariest thing I've ever been through ever. So yeah, that was not my favourite experience. And Molly would probably say the same about watching me give birth as well, that like it was really not fun. I mean,
and how did watching Molly go through that influence your perspective on giving birth? Because I mean, giving birth is a terrifying prospect, and I think there is an element of just like, you know, like, I have no choice. Like, if I want this baby to come out, it's going to have to come out one kind of way. So, you know, get with it kind of thing. But I do think it's a very unique perspective that you had that probably isn't that kind, like from a preparation perspective. Well,
maybe not. But then a lot of people say your second pregnancy, you know more, you're more relaxed and more confident. Like, it's not the same because I didn't give birth the first time, but I definitely was more educated and knew more. Yes. I remember thinking after the first one, like, Christ, we really didn't know anything. Like, you go to the NCT classes and the courses and you read stuff, but like, until you've been through it, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, and so there was definitely like, I'm more prepared because I've seen like, you know, and you go to the courses and they go, this or this or this or this could happen. And like all four of them happened.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, no one mentioned that they could all happen. And so it definitely influenced my like birth plan. As much as you can have a birth plan, it definitely like, for example, I was adamant I didn't want to be induced because part of Molly's labour was she got induced like partway through, which I also didn't know was a thing. I thought it was like you either get induced to go into labour or you don't. But she went into labour spontaneously, didn't move quick enough, then they induced her. So like I was adamant that I didn't want that because I just heard a lot of stories about people being induced and then more interventions follow, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of had a thing of like, if I go overdue, I'd rather just have a elective C-section. So I did actually book a post-date C-section at like 12 days past my due date.
I'm surprised that you were able to do that because I've had friends that have giving birth to their second baby, had a cesarean for their first baby, and they just couldn't get, they couldn't get the date in.
Normally the second C-section is like recommended if you've had a first one,
No,
isn't it?
but I mean, the hospital that she wanted to go to was...
they're like, sorry, we're fully booked.
Yeah. Anyway.
Gosh. Yeah, no, I just went in and was like, I would like this. I don't want to be induced. And they do go, why, blah, blah. I actually went to my first ever booking appointment when I was first pregnant. She was like, do you have an idea of what kind of birth you want to have? And I was like, what's the point in planning? It's all going to go to shit anyway. And she was like, what happened to you? And they sent me to this like birth options appointment where I got like a senior midwife to like talk me through all the possibilities. And it was actually really helpful. Molly came along too and found it incredibly helpful of like, this is why certain things happen. This is maybe why this happened to you. This is how you could avoid it. And she actually said, so for example, if you're overdue and you don't want to be induced, you can just say, I want a C-section. So that's what I did. I never got there in the end, but...
Well, I mean, I'm desperate to hear the birth story, but for those people that are loyal listeners, you will have had a tease of Molly's birth because Laura wrote in with a really funny story about when the doctor saw her in scrubs and assumed that she was a doctor.
Thought I was a midwife.
A midwife and not her wife. This one is a brilliant one. Let me just grab it up. I'm so sorry I've got to be on my phone here.
Rude.
Ready?
I'm ready.
My wife delivered in theatre with the help of forceps, so I had to get into scrubs. Midwife goes to find the doc to bring him to us, and whilst she's gone, the doctor appears without her. He introduces himself. Hi, I'm doctor, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to look at the baby, check she's okay, and I'll just take her around the corner to do that. He's mostly talking to my wife, which I think nothing of. Then he turns to me and says, could you bring the baby and come with me? So I'm like, yep, sure. And he says, and on the way, can you give me a history? Confused, I'm like, history? So does that mean what's happened up until now? He looks at me like I'm the dumbest person he's ever met in his life. Like, yes, that's what it means. Me, still confused. Well, we've been here since Saturday. It was a long labour. The doc, with the tone of speaking to a total moron, is like, and the delivery? And I was like, she needed forceps because she got stuck. And then he asked me for some kind of medical stat. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh my God, I know what's
happening. And then I finally clicked to what's happened. The doc has arrived at my wife's bed, seen a woman standing next to her in scrubs, and he thinks I'm the midwife. So he's been assuming for the last 5 minutes that I am the world's worst midwife who knows nothing about her patient. And I've just been in an overtired, overwhelmed, confused state trying to work out why this doctor is being so rude to me. So at this point, I laugh and explain to him that I don't work here. I am the baby's other mum. And his face instantly falls. He's absolutely mortified in capital letters, apologizes profusely, and thank the Lord at this point our actual wonderful midwife showed up to rescue me.
Oh my God. Can you imagine how mortal you would be as that doctor?
He won't make that mistake again. If you're happy to talk through your birth story, I mean, I remember before you were about to give birth, you were on the hunt for details.
Yeah, I wanted to hear a lot of... I was like, knowledge is power. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but I'm like, I want to hear all the versions.
I agree.
So I'm prepared. So yeah, I mean...
Do we need a trigger warning?
Maybe.
Okay.
If you're pregnant and you're about to have a baby, maybe...
Yeah, I feel like there is a line where like you, at the beginning of the pregnancy and maybe at in the middle, if it's your first pregnancy, you want all the info. And then... There's like a bit at the end
where you're like, I don't want to hear it.
I can't. Please no. Yeah. So if you're in that second phase, just pause.
But yeah, I mean, I'll try and do a quick version because they can go on forever, can't they? But basically, I had my post-dates overdue C-section booked for the Monday. And I'd kind of made my peace with the fact that it was probably going to happen. I'd had like a sweep. I'd had 2 sweeps. Nothing was really moving. But then on the Saturday, my waters broke, and it was like not the movie's gush. It was like a little bit where you kind of feel like maybe you've wet yourself and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
is something happening? So basically I went into hospital and they were like, yeah, that's your waters. But I was having no contractions. So then they give you this horrible deadline where they're like, you have 24 hours to go into labour or we're going to intervene.
Yeah.
So that's like obviously really relaxing. They send you home. I was like walking up and down the stairs like a mad woman trying to like get things going. Started getting some contractions overnight, but by midday, which was 24 hours the next day, it wasn't like enough. I went back in and I was 1 centimetre dilated. So they were like, yeah. So they were like, yeah, okay.
You
so
in pain?
Not really. Like I was having contractions, but they were like, maybe one every 10 minutes, maybe two. And I was like talking through them and they were like, yeah.
Thank God. Because I have heard stories of people 1 centimetre dilated in so much pain.
Yeah. And they're like,
and then they get
feel
told
like
and they're
10.
like, no. That
can't be true.
That can't be true.
That happened to Molly, bless her. That happened to Molly, yeah. So they're like, right, well, you can have the drip to induce you. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I've got a C-section booked for tomorrow because I don't want that. And they were like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you can't go home. I was like, can I just go home and come back for the C-section tomorrow? And they were like, no, you have to be monitored because your waters have been broken for more than 24 hours. They were about infection risk, blah, blah, blah. So you have to stay here, but it was a Sunday. So they were like, theatre's quite busy with emergencies. We'll see you when we see you, but you can have the C-section instead of the induction. So they put you on like a ward. It's like not quite the antenatal ward where you're just waiting. It's like you need monitoring, but we don't have a bed for you yet, or you're not ready for a bed. So sitting in like a bay of 4 women in the room, 1 midwife to 4, and I sit in there and we like sit and have a little chat. Bear in mind also, I haven't eaten since the night before because they were like, just in case you do have the C-section, don't have breakfast. So I then haven't had breakfast. Then it's like lunchtime when I go in. I was like, well, if it's going to be a while for the theatre, can I have some lunch? And they're like, we don't want you to miss your slot, so no. So I was like, fine. And then Molly ate a Christmas sandwich in front of me and I was really quite sad about it, but she was very apologetic.
Pret or?
No, M&S.
Okay.
They have one in the hospital.
Nice.
And then, so I'm just waiting basically all afternoon. And I'm like, still, it's fairly chill. Like 6:30, I'm like, oh, things are ramping up. Around 6:30 is when they did then another exam. So I was like, I'm in quite a lot of pain now. She was like, yeah, you're 3 centimetres. So I was like, okay, it's moved, but still quite slow. So then I'm just like waiting, keep getting updates.
And no drugs and no pain relief.
I've had some like paracetamol at this point.
Yeah.
Because I'm like waiting for a C-section.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then there's the whole like the midwives change shift at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and they're like faffing around in and out, being like, oh, you're actually next after the shift change. We're just doing a handover and we're going to take you down. But between the kind of examination I had at 6:30 where I was 3 and when they actually finally came to get me about 8:30 to take me to theatre, about 8 o'clock maybe, it like something changed. It was like 0 to 100 in no time at all. And in hindsight, what I know, sorry, Maggie's head's bumping the microphone. Bless. What I know is that I was like progressing really quickly. So basically I was like, bear in mind, still in a bay of like 3 other women there. I was doing all the things. I was mooing. I was also having gas and air at that point. Yeah, big time. I had gas and air at that point, but because I'd eaten nothing all day, it was making me really sick.
Yeah.
And I was like dry retching a lot, which is horrible. So I honestly, someone said to me the other day, like, were you not worried about like making those noises in front of other people? I'm like, no, I literally couldn't have, I was not in my body. I couldn't have cared less, but I feel so sorry for them. They're sitting there waiting to have their babies and all they can hear is these like horrible sounds from me. Anyway, so eventually a new midwife comes on shift. She comes to get me with a wheelchair. She's like, can you walk? I was like, absolutely fucking not. Also at this point, sorry, too much info, but like, I was like, every time I had a contraction, I was like, I'm going to shit myself. I'm going to poo. I need a poo, which should have been a sign that stuff was happening, but I don't know. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So they wheel me to theatre the whole way down the thing. I'm like having mega contractions, get to theatre. They're like, okay, we're going to give you the spinal for the C-section. I was like, please God, give me the spinal right now. They gave me more gas and air, more retching. They were like panicking about their sterile environment, like running at me with buckets. So it's like really horrible. And then they give you the spinal and you're like, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Literally.
So nice. So then I'm sitting there like back in the room, chit-chatting away, blah, 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 blah. And
God, isn't it just such a night and day experience?
it's so weird. I remember she said like, you're going to feel like a little bit of warmth down your bottom and into your legs. And when that happened, I was like, oh my God, that's the best feeling I've ever had in my whole life.
The best.
The best. So anyway, then I'm like, they're putting like the drape up. They're like, and another thing they do is, for some reason, I can't remember why this is, but they go and like clean your vagina basically. Right. So I don't know if it's to like tell if there's fresh blood or I don't know what it is, but the midwife goes down there to do that. And at that point, she goes, guys, she's fully dilated and I can see the head. Yeah. So, and I was like, what? And all the doctors were like, what? And they were like, we just had a handover half an hour ago and they told us that you were 3 centimetres. And I was like, well, I was fucking 3 centimetres. So I didn't know I was 10 centimetres. Anyway, so they were then like,
well, this is the thing, because you're having a great time at this point.
Exactly. But then they're like, yeah, we can't do a C-section. The baby's way too low. becomes dangerous. And I was like, okay. And they were like, so you're going to have to push this baby out. And I was like, right, well, you've just numbed me from the boobs down. So how am I going to do that? And they were like, yeah, it might require forceps, like assistance. At which point I was like, for fuck's sake. Like the whole reason I said no to the induction and yes to the C-section was because I was trying to avoid this. And at the time there was like a lot of voices, and like the anaesthetist who was like right behind my head was the biggest hun in the whole world and was like, can everyone just shut up and give Laura and Molly a minute? So we like had this whole chat. I tried to see if I could have it a different way. Like, can you use the suction cup? They were like, well, yeah, it's probably not going to work. So they let me try and do some like pushing without it just to see.
And let me ask you about that, because I had an epidural, which I think is similar to a spinal, but maybe something slightly different. But I could push.
Yeah, so an epidural you top up. A spinal is
Right.
like a solid block for 6 hours or whatever.
Okay.
So it just like has a fixed amount of time that you're just numb. So an epidural, I think they like recommend that you let it wear, like don't, when you're about to get to pushing, let it wear off a little bit, because then you can feel your contraction a little bit. You don't feel the full pain of it, but you can feel it enough to be like, I'm contracting.
Well, I didn't.
Go.
I couldn't actually feel the contraction. They would. I kind of could. I was like, I think I'm contracting.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
then they checked, and then they were like, yeah, you are, push.
Okay, yeah, so the same thing.
But I could properly push. Like I could feel, not to be too graphic, but I could like feel my vagina stretching.
Really? Okay, so
Yeah.
I could feel nothing.
No way.
Yeah. So they had my
Okay.
hands on my belly and were like, yep, this is a contraction.
Okay.
And then I would push. And I remember like not laughing at the time, obviously, but I remember thinking about it because they were like, okay, this is good. Add a bit more, add a little bit more. And I was like, the fact that you think I know how much I'm adding,
Yeah.
or, like I can't add more. I can feel nothing. This is bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then eventually they were like, yeah, we
It's
need the
not-
forceps.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember looking at two doctors like talking to each other, and I was like, you guys really want to do forceps, don't you? And they were like, yeah, we're running out of time. And they were also like, if the thing you're worried about is like pelvic health, having the baby there for that amount of time is worse. And we're
Got
worried
it.
that if it doesn't work and we do have to switch to something else, the spinal won't last as long, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I was like, fine. And also her heart rate was dipping with every contraction. So they were like, and also, I forgot about this, the anesthetic makes the contraction slow down. So then I stopped contracting for ages. And then they end up having to give me the induction drip to make them speed up. And I was like, the irony of the situation is too much for me to deal.
Yeah, so I would say this isn't a great birth story if you've never given birth.
Yeah, it's not great. It gets worse as well. So then eventually they get her out. So 2 pulls with the forceps and she's out, because the first one, I slid down the bed. Like I fully nearly fell off.
Oh.
They all went, she's moving. And Molly was like, oh my God. So Molly was like here next to me on a seat. And then suddenly she was like way behind me because I shot down the bed. And everyone panicked and they all like grabbed me and like hoiked me back up the bed for the next push and like pull me out. So I was like, Christ, please don't drop me on the floor. So there was that. And then baby was out, Maggie was out, she's on my chest, all lovely, blah, blah, blah. And then I had a postpartum hemorrhage, which it took them like an hour to get under control. And at the time it was not that scary because they were all very calm voiced and everything, but Molly could like see what was happening. She was like, it was quite scary.
Yeah.
And they ended up having to put like a balloon in my uterus and like inflate it, which then stops the bleeding, which I then had to have
It's
overnight.
no picnic, is it?
Yeah, so it wasn't great. It wasn't great.
But you got sweet
Maggie came out of it. I
it.
said I'd do the short version. That was a long AF.
No,
so
that
sorry.
that was very interesting. And but 2 months later, how are you okay?
Not really.
Cool.
Like, yes, but I mean, I don't know how much detail to go into.
I
I'm
mean-
painfully aware that a lot of my colleagues are going to listen to this because that's how I know
so
each other.
go light
but
on the detail, maybe.
yeah, it's not great. My pelvic floor is a bit
Yeah,
spooked. Let's put it that way.
got it. Okay. I am conscious that Maggie could wake up any moment.
Yes, that's a good point.
And I have one like burning topic that I really want to ask you about, which was teased in one of your truths. Can you repeat the fingerboarding
Yeah.
thing?
So I said that there's the sperm donor that we chose. Basically, they list like hobbies, interests, whatever, and one of the things he put down was fingerboarding, which if you Google it, it doesn't look cool.
Okay.
It's like a tiny skateboard that you do with your fingers.
Okay. Well, this brings me perfectly to the second most burning question that I have, and I'm really sorry because I feel like everyone has the amount of times you've probably been asked this question. But how on earth do you go about choosing the sperm for your child?
Yeah, it's not the easiest. And everyone thinks it'll be fun. They're like, is it fun? Is it like Tinder? And I'm like, well, not really. I mean, kind of, because you're swiping through profiles, but like, not really. And I think my biggest misconception about it was that I thought it'd be like, oh, should we choose like a really brainy like scientist? Yeah. Should we choose like an athlete? Should we choose like,
is that not what it's like?
Musician? No, because let's think about it. Like, most people are not wanking into a cup for money. Like, that's not really like the cream of the crop of humanity in there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful to them, and they're incredible humans and very altruistic, and I'm not
Yeah.
slagging people off for being sperm donors. But like, most rocket scientists probably aren't also sperm donors. Most like concert pianists aren't sperm donors. So you think that you can like pick which quality you want, and actually when it comes down to it, you're like, okay, who's got the least disease in their family history? And
Got
like,
it.
so for example, then you get in a real like tizzy because there's so much options. So you know, if like a menu's too big, it's impossible to decide because you're like, you want everything / like, or maybe it's all rubbish. But the thing, so like one wrote in their like little personal statement, I wasn't that close to my family, I was quite independent. Well, he was like, no, our child will hate us. And I was like, oh no, I don't think that we should, you know, we might have some influence on that, but you get so bogged down, is my point, it becomes really difficult.
So you settled on fingerboarding?
Fingerboarding, yeah, among other things. But yeah, that was basically like the least amount of family history disease. And we were like, cool, we'll be okay with the slightly weird fingerboarding.
And was one of your requirements that they needed to commit to doing it twice?
No, because you just buy the sperm. We just bought like
Enough
to do both of us. And you just buy it and then it's yours. And if you don't use it, you can give it back.
Do you see photos of the man?
Not in the UK. You can if you do an international sperm bank.
So it's a real lottery?
Yeah, we didn't want photos though. I quite like that we don't have photos.
Okay, yes.
But you can like in Europe or America, you can like pay more for more. So you can be like, I want to see kids' photos. Or actually, I want to see an adult photo. Actually, I want to do a Zoom call with the sperm donor. Like, there's way more layers. But we were like, no, less I know, the better on that kind of stuff.
Got it. Wow, that feels like it feels. I mean, here I am, like, I'm not sure I love the name of my baby, and you're picking the sperm. It's so huge.
But then you have to think about, like, when you and Ben met, I assume you didn't say, like, could I actually have a history of your family's illnesses, and could I have a list of your hobbies, and like, how clever are you? What's your IQ? Like, you don't. You just fall in love with someone, you have their baby. So at some point, you have to be like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I wouldn't be checking this if I was having a baby, like, with the person I'd chosen to marry. You'll just get on with it.
And then obviously both of your babies were IVF. What would you say was, I mean, I know very little about IVF. What would you, I don't know if you knew anything about IVF going into it, but what would you say was like your biggest surprise or misconception about the experience?
I think we went into it like, this is going to be great because we are happy to be here. As in, most people who go to IVF are like, have struggled for years to conceive and therefore really sad to be there. Whereas we were like, it's going to be fine for us because we're so like excited to be doing it. And then kind of maybe underestimate the fact that it's still like a lot on your body. It's still a lot of hormones. It's still like very disappointing when it doesn't work. And just because we weren't going in with fertility problems doesn't mean it was going to work first time. So I think we were a bit like, oh, we thought we were going to nail that.
Did it take a while then?
We both had successful egg collections, and then both pregnancies took 2 goes of like putting an embryo in, basically.
Okay.
So both times that doesn't work, you're like, but I thought we were, I thought we were going to nail this kind of thing. So there's a bit of that where you're like, oh, it's still hard.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people that are about to go through IVF or going through IVF now?
Don't overthink it. I think a lot of people get really panicky about it. I've actually had a friend recently, and the level, it's the same with pregnancy. The first time you're like, oh my God, should I eat this? Should I breathe that? Should I drink this? Should I even look at this thing? Whatever. And at the end of the day, actually stressing yourself out about all that stuff is probably doing more damage than eating the cheese or, having the sip of wine. I don't know. I can't remember. Like, no, but it's sort of the same as pregnancy. They're like, don't eat unpasteurized things. Don't eat raw things. Don't drink wine. It's kind of the same rules. But like, I had a friend who was like, I just accidentally did this, and have I ruined everything? Blah, blah, blah. And like, there's a 2-week wait when they put the embryo in that you're then like in the biggest tizzy ever of like, I just like jumped down a step. Has the embryo fallen out? And you're like, no, it doesn't work like that, So just try and not panic would be my main advice.
Great advice. I would thank you the most for coming, but I think I'm going to thank Maggie for being, the biggest MVP ever. She has just sat and laid there and slept like a sweet, sweet baby girl.
Sweet hot water bottle on me.
For a very long time. But thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
How excited are you to listen to your own pod?
I'm quite nervous about listening to the sound of my own voice.
Yeah,
I don't know how you got used to that.
It's horrific. And what's even worse than listening to the sound of your own voice is watching yourself.
Yeah, maybe I just won't do that.
No. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And you will hear the regular pod hopefully next week.
I can't wait.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.